Breaking news coming in, which is in regard with the Israel-Iran conflict, where we learned that the Israel Defense Forces have now confirmed that the Arak nuclear facility has been hit. This comes as a major development as the Israel-Iran conflict has entered day 7. Now we learned that there are reports which say that the Israeli force bombed Iran's Arak heavy water reactor. This happened in the morning along with a second strike on the Natanz enrichment facility and dozens of other military sites overnight. The military announcement as an operation aimed at destroying the Iranian nuclear program entered its 7th day. That's the video that you see on your screens of the nuclear facility in Iran. This is the nuclear facility specifically that we're talking about that Israel claims to have hit after they launched a missile attack. Now, according to the Israel Defense Forces, a wave of overnight strikes involved 40 fighter jets dropping 100 munitions of dozens of Iranian military facilities in Tehran and other areas of Iran. Kruthat, my colleague, is joining me live on the broadcast on that. Kruthat, this comes as a major development. Targeting of nuclear facilities is what being seen is it's a huge escalation again in Israel-Iran conflict. Where do you see this panning out?
Indeed, Tanisha, and it is a very significant target that was selected by the Israelis this time in particular. We saw on the six days ago when the initial preliminary strikes began on nuclear facilities. It was the Natanz nuclear facility, which houses a lot of centrifuges, which is used to enrich uranium in the sense that to synthesize uranium from the raw reserves. Now, what is the significance of the Arak reactor is that it helps with plutonium production. It could, in fact, reach plutonium purity in terms of 60% capacity, which is very close to weapons-grade plutonium, which needs about 90% purity. Now, the interesting part about the Arak nuclear reactor is that as part of the 2015 Iran nuclear deal, this reactor was rendered useless in the sense that it was stopped by the IAEA. The entire reactor core, the nuclear material or the fissile material which was in the reactor was sent to Russia. The heavy water reactor, which was particularly targeted, helps with cooling down the nuclear core after synthesizing, purified plutonium and other explosive nuclear fissile materials. And this heavy water reactor was later on filled with concrete and it was rendered inoperational. So that is why this was a site that, since the nuclear deal was put in 2015, was not operational. But there were indications that now that the nuclear deal was withdrawn by Trump in 2018, Iran was slowly making progress of reactivating this entire nuclear reactor. In fact, there were reports suggesting that as early as 2026, this heavy water reactor could be again made operational. That would have significantly helped Iran achieve, enrichment of uranium and plutonium-like materials, which could help them then generate enough fissile material to generate a large arsenal of nuclear weapons. That is why now Iran's Arak nuclear reactor has been targeted by the Israeli Defense Forces, and they have released a detailed video of the strategic significance of the Arak nuclear reactor. As we see the visuals on our screen at the moment, this was the reactor, a heavy water reactor, which is used for cooling down these materials, and it is a very crucial part. It was in fact a long-term project for Tehran. It was sanctioned all the way back in 1990s, but no international country was helping Iran make this. In 2003, they started making it, and in 2015, it was rendered inoperable. So there has been a long journey of this Arak nuclear reactor, which now Israelis claim that they have decisively destroyed through their repeated strikes on the reactor. That's the latest that we are tracking on this development.
Absolutely. Kruthat, one more question before I let you go. Now, the Israeli Defense Forces have given out a new statement, and this is again on the targeting of the nuclear facility, where they say, and I quote, this nuclear reactor in Arak was created for one purpose, that is to build a nuclear bomb. How far is that true?
Indeed, as I said earlier as well, that it was a very critical location for enriching plutonium. They had in fact in the past reached up to 60% purity of plutonium at this Arak nuclear facility. It was a heavy water reactor. The technical and scientific aspects, of course, the scientists can explain us better, but what we understand is that this heavy water reactor was used for cooling down this fissile material after it was purified, and it was a very crucial component of the nuclear infrastructure that was developed by Iran over the years. The Natanz province, of course, this facility is about 250 to 300 kilometers away from Tehran in the southern province of Iran, where in the Natanz province there is a centrifuge lab which was also initially targeted, and all the centrifuges were allegedly destroyed by the IDF. However, the IAEA chief Rafael Grossi had confirmed just a couple of days ago that there was no damage done particularly to the centrifuges, as this was a facility that was subsurface or underground, whereas the Arak nuclear reactor is not such. It is on the surface very much, but as I said earlier, it was rendered inoperable as part of the 2015 nuclear deal. The reactor's nuclear core was taken out, which is why, as the forces have rightly said, there is no nuclear leak or fear of radiation leak. What the Israeli Defense Forces have intended to do by this is destroy the reactor's capability to be reactivated, with sources say that it could have been reactivated by as early as 2026. That's the latest that we are tracking on these developments.